Where was it to? I think it was off-topic education. It might have been prior to, yeah, I think it was actually in the education section. So let me just see if I can find it. I'll put a link. Yeah, there we go. So I'll put a link to this into this right now. So in essence, right, this one was talking about prop firms, what they are. So if you don't understand, it's probably worth watching this one first. Let me just post that there now. If you're watching obviously on YouTube, then I'll post that in as well in terms of the comments a bit later on. But in essence, come on, watch this one first, right? And what I've talked about in here is what a prop firm is, how it works, how you can scale your account from very little in terms of the initial outlay all the way through to millions of dollars if that's what you want, right? So I've created a kind of a blueprint. I've created, kind of almost a step-by-step guide in terms of what you should be looking at, kind of month one, month two, month three, realistic goals and targets, so that you don't kind of fail in terms of your own expectations, right? Now, the next part of this, and this is part of why I said, I think we're going to be creating some kind of series, right? So the idea is here on Tradingview, we want to create something a little bit different, right? So if you go across to YouTube, you'll see loads of people talking about prop firms, talking about how to pass an FTMO, etc., etc. And there's a lot of different type of content out there, right? But what we decided to do was, based on the requests that we were getting, we wanted to take strategies that we saw and to kind of break them down step by step, review them in a way to actually get a feeling as to whether or not some of these strategies will work, whether they will work for, a newbie trader, or whether you need a little bit of knowledge to, to use it and to kind of to take advantage of it, right? So what we done was we started off, first of all, with one particular strategy, right? Now, I saw this one initially and kind of handed this over to Paul. We then decided to do a stream based on this particular strategy, right? So this is a basically a 1 minute strategy, right? Now, I'll come into how we talk about automation and what we're talking about in automation kind of next, right? But to start with, the general idea was we put together a stream, which was, where was it? Live stream catch up. We put together this stream, right? So again, I'll share this link in YouTube. I'm not sure if I'm able to do it because it's a YouTube link in TradingView, but basically just search this, right? Prop firms, controlling your emotions, and short time frames, right? This is on Paul Varco's channel, right? He's my business partner. Now, ultimately, when you combine the post that I've done, this one, coupled with the joint stream that we did, in this stream, we again going to take it to the next level in terms of a strategy, the breakdown of the strategy, what we're looking for, etc., etc. And then we kind of carried this on through for the members to take it all the way into breaking the strategy down, right? So what I want to do in this particular one is to show an example of this particular trade that was actually live, I think, yesterday. So what I'd done was, in terms of showing it, breaking it down, the initial post was Paul highlighted there was a change of character in both euro dollar as well as Aussie dollar. And then what I wanted to do was just to kind of highlight, what was actually happening, right? So as you can see, this was the post, right? A bit blurred there. This was the post. And then it was actually showing the fact that we were seeing a high. It's on a minute time frame, right? So we were seeing a high followed by a low. We then created a lower high followed by a lower low, right? However, the next thing that actually happened was we saw a higher high than the previous higher low, right? So technically the market is sideways. We highlighted the current fractal high, right, on the assumption that we would now basically break this trend line and start moving down, right? So what happened next was we clearly started to break down through the trend line, right? We didn't break the fractal high, and the move became more and more obvious as we started to move on down, right? Now, we marked out ultimately that lower level, right? So this is where we were aiming for the price to come to, right? Now, at this particular stage, as we started to break down, there were a couple of key levels underneath this, right? So we saw the lower low, which obviously was broken, right? And then the general idea was what we were targeting was this move down. Okay, so the move initially was based on what I know the strategy was calling a fair value gap, right? It's basically an imbalance. It's basically a gap in the candle that hadn't really been filled. So the general point was the price then we were expecting to come down to this green zone, back up to the red box, and then ultimately kind of continue the fall down, right? Now, keep in mind, this is a minute time frame. This isn't our strategy, right? This is somebody else's strategy that we've been kind of breaking down and playing with, right? So ultimately, the price breaks through, the price comes back, right? And then obviously we're expecting the price to hit the red box before we continue on down. So fast forward a little bit further, the price ultimately, still sat there. What we then saw is as we moved forward, the price tagged the red box and then obviously continued to create that new lower low, right? So in essence, this was a pretty good move, right? And a very, very small time frame. Now, this isn't what I'm trying to talk about, right? This is just me showing in terms of what we've been looking at. So the general idea is we come down, right? We didn't get then any further action into this zone, right? We then obviously took off and off we went, right? But the move itself was from here to here, right? So a very, very small move in the grand scheme of things. But when you're trading a 1 minute time frame, right, it is a very small move, okay? So in essence, what we were then seeing in terms of the move and the move overall is this particular strategy, which we highlighted in the other video, which was obviously this video here. The strategy itself, right, it's kind of hit and miss, right? It's probably a 50-50, if I'm honest, in terms of, the time frame you're looking at it, what session you go through. This particular strategy is talking about the liquidity sweep from the Asian session and basically taking then trades only within the GB session, which is obviously the London session or the New York session. Okay, so what we were doing is we were playing around with the concept kind of outside of the parameters of the strategy that we saw. Okay, and just kind of adding our own experience, our own kind of background to this, and just looking at it rather than just saying, oh well, this works because of X. It was actually this works because of Y. And if you kind of zoom out and scale out, you can see exactly where the liquidity is sat, where the market is chasing, why the market is chasing such liquidity, etc., etc., right? Which brings me on to the next part of the series, right? The next part of the sequence. What we've been doing is breaking this down and kind of testing this in real time, which is obviously what we've just shown you. The next part is to look at ways of automating such a strategy, right? And then what we're going to be doing is potentially back testing with the automation, right? So it's a very mechanical, rule-based system rather than us looking at it kind of through our eyes saying, well, actually, I wouldn't take this trade because the higher time frame is doing X, or a Wyckoff schematic is looking like this. Whatever reason we have in terms of causing the doubt, we will still refine it. We'll probably do an overview later on in this particular series. But in essence, what we want to do right now is next step, basically automate this, right? Then what we'll be doing is looking at another strategy, another strategy, another strategy. And again, always somebody else's strategy for these minute time frames, right? This isn't something that, we see and something that we want to trade on a personal perspective. This is something that what we're aiming to do, kind of join the dots, right? So I know a lot of people are looking for automation. A lot of people are looking for signals. A lot of people are looking for ways to pass these prop firm challenges. What we're trying to piece together is how realistic are some of these strategies in terms of passing manually. How realistic is it to pass a prop firm challenge, 8 to 10% in a month, using this as a mechanical automated system? What kind of drawdowns we see, what kind of R&R do you think should be set? And then ultimately we'll do this over 3, 4, 5 strategies, maybe even later, depending on a few more, depending on what kind of feedback we get from the general public. And then ultimately what we want to see is, are there strategies that we can connect up, put this kind of live, share this out, and to actually use these in terms of automated strategies. All right. Now, I've always been, a big kind of non-believer in terms of automation, right? And I think the hardest thing for me is I almost want to prove myself wrong in terms of, can something work when you take that human emotion out of the strategy entirely, right? So the one thing I'm going to ask you guys, if there's a strategy, smaller time frame ideally, so you can kind of plug it into a real prop firm challenge, share it with me, right? And or myself or Paul, and we look into it. We'll kind of dig down, we'll drill down, and then what we'll try to do is find ways to automate it, right? So that's basically what we're trying to do within the series. That's what I wanted to share on this particular video, right? There's obviously opportunities like this on these smaller time frames that, are not ones that I personally like. This was one I actually did take, and I took this obviously live to show. I done the same thing obviously on the video the other day with Paul, in terms of, these are the kinds of trades that I've been playing with in the last week or so. All right. So these are not my my go-to trades. Obviously for me, it's still a longer time frame type trades. It's still that kind of swing trader is kind of my forte. But I guess in the shorter time frame perspective, this is obviously trying to help you guys pass these challenges based on things that you want to throw at us. If there's a strategy that you've seen, you like the idea of, let myself or Paul have it. We'll kind of pick it apart. We'll see if we can automate it. If we can, we'll create a video on the automation of that, and then ultimately talk about automation type tools. We're going to talk about various aspects of what worked, what didn't work, what we think we could refine this with, and then we just want to spark that conversation. We want to see what you guys think of what tool works in what market, what environment, what time frame, and therefore feel free to, to kind of throw questions, throw ideas, and let's see what kind of sticks. So on that particular note, right, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to look and see if we have any kind of questions, anything else, and if not, I want to close this one off relatively soon. Yeah, I'm pretty good. Thank you for asking. So as I said, right, the whole point of this is kind of almost the intro to a series. We're going to be doing a series on Tradingview, right? So they will be restreamed to YouTube, as I've been doing recently. And then the general idea, I think Paul is going to look at doing some of these live as well, where the trade from the strategy that we currently testing will actually be done on Paul's live stream. As a live kind of, I'm opening a trade right now. I'm putting this into a new FTMO or a new prop firm, whatever one he's going to be using, and then in essence, we're gonna just test it, right? The book is, if you scroll down into the bottom of the chat, you'll see here the middle link. This is the book Master the Art of Trading. Obviously, a link to the Amazon thing. Right, so this is a good question. This is exactly the kind of thing that we want, guys, right? So in essence, in terms of what we've done, right, is we've taken a strategy that we saw on YouTube, right? This was somebody else's strategy. The guy that we saw, and I'm not, the reason that I'm kind of cagey in terms of what we can and can't share is I don't know who owns the initial strategy, and I don't know kind of who to credit for, this. I've said 100% it's not our strategy, right? So what we've done is we've taken, let's just call it strategy one. We've taken strategy one and we've taken indicators kind of in the field, right? So the first indicator is looking at the sessions, right? So it's kind of, I know some people will call these kill zones, some people will call these just, market sessions. We've taken an indicator that basically identifies the session, right? And then what we've done is we've kind of played around with that indicator with a view of just taking the bits that we want from that indicator. So we've taken away various other sessions, we've taken away certain lines and color schemes and so on, and all it was then painting was the end of a session and the start of a new session. What I then found was a second indicator that kind of did a little bit of what I was looking for, but I ended up using ChatGPT, and again, I've even done a video on that, on how to use that. So I took an indicator, took that as an open source code, used ChatGPT to merge a couple of other things kind of with it that basically give the fractal highs and the fractal lows that I was looking for, kind of paint some certain lines in it, and then bring the imbalance areas back into it, right? So there's probably other things available, and it's just, either me being lazy in terms of not knowing where to look. I've had a couple of indicators that we've put kind of out to the general public, and Pine coders have come back and said, "Oh, this is available on this, and you can put this together with that, and you can use other people's indicators." So, in all honesty, it's not worth my hassle trying to give them for free, right? It's if you want to find an RSI indicator, then just search somebody else's, right? I think in terms of what we've tried to do with this one is merge the two together. The next part of the strategy and the next part of the series, which will be on one of the next videos, I hope, is we're going to blend the two pieces of code, in essence, using ChatGPT, blend the two together, and then we're going to use that in terms of automation. So we currently having a conversation with a company in this particular space, which I'm not going to mention who they are yet, but we're having this conversation in the background. And what we're aiming to do is connect that, obviously, with Tradingview, connect that onto the platform, and then show that live on one of these streams. And ultimately, what we'd love to do is to run that for a week, a month, whatever it is. And if if it's making profit and it's kind of moving on, we'll do a back testing and we'll stick that live and we'll run it live and do streams on this every so often. And that's what we're aiming to do. So the idea is how we can leverage the power of Tradingview, how we can leverage automation type tools and indicators, and basically review it at the same time using myself and Paul's 50 plus combined years of experience in putting this together. So that's really what we're aiming for. Oh, great. Okay. So yeah, so that's again, kind of useful. I mean, if you've got anything that you want us to look at, anything you want us to kind of play with and test, any kind of ideas or thoughts on us, this is the whole point of today's stream was to put together the kind of what's coming rather than this is what it is or this is the update, right? We've talked about, as I said earlier, we've talked about the I've lost it again. Now we've talked about obviously what the prop firm is, right? So that was the start of, I guess, this kind of series, right? Then obviously we done this joint screen with showing the strategy, and this is strategy one, as I said, right? The next thing is obviously automating strategy one so that they would have taken this trade without me pulling the trigger. And then ultimately we want to just see if it works, one, automated standalone, so using the rules set out in the YouTube video that we've watched. Secondly, if it works any better with us refining it. And third, can we automate that so it's a mechanical entry, 24/7 for us to take these trades or these types of trades? And we're going to plug that in. We're going to buy, a prop firm challenge. We're going to plug it in, run it through Tradingview, and then ultimately kind of, let's use and leverage the power of what's, kind of what's on this platform as of today. So, that'll be pretty cool for us. Hopefully it'll be pretty cool for Tradingview as well. And, that's kind of the point. That's what we're aiming for. So, like I said, any strategy, any thought, any idea, anything else that we kind of missed or anything else you think would be kind of cool, then, get in touch with us some way, shape or form. You direct message me or leave a comment on this, I'll come back and check every so often. And let's take it from there. So yeah, anything at all, feel free. Right. If that's it, let's knock this one on the head. And thanks again for watching, guys. And like I said, feel free to to plug any questions in, any ideas. All right. Again, thanks for watching, guys. See you on the next stream. Cheers all.